What are 5 interesting facts about ancient Greece? So, why do so many people want to go to Greece? Greece is known for its beaches, myths, and tasty food. But there's more to it than that. So, are you all ready for a trip back in time? Then join us as we discover 5 interesting facts about ancient Greece. The beginning of the Christian era marked the end of the ancient Greek period, which had a duration of approximately 1,000 years. Some historians and scholars agree that it was the first civilization to emerge in Western Europe. The Roman Empire was profoundly influenced by Greek culture, which made it possible for that culture to be adapted and spread throughout the rest of Europe. The ancient Greeks had a significant impact on a variety of fields, including legislation, education, reasoning, science, and culture. This had a direct bearing on what came to be known as the Renaissance in Western Europe, as well as the various neoclassical revivals that occurred in Europe and the Americas in the 18th and 19th centuries. Here is a list of the top 5 interesting facts about ancient Greece. All ancient Greek monsters had the same mother. In Greek mythology, most of the famous monsters had the same mother. Echidna is known as the mother of monsters. She is usually described as a mix of a beautiful nymph and a dangerous serpent. The top half of her body was feminine, and the bottom half was either a single serpent tail or 2 snake tails. Not only did Echidna look scary, but she was also said to have other scary traits, like the fact that she ate raw meat. Echidna and her husband Typhon, a huge monster snake, tried to take over the world by killing Zeus. Zeus beat them with the help of his thunderbolts, and as punishment, he buried Typhon under Mount Etna. Echidna and her offspring lived long enough to face off against many future heroes. Some of her descendants were Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Hades who guards the underworld, Lernaean Hydra, the serpentine water monster that Hercules killed, Chimera, the fire-breathing hybrid creature, the treacherous Sphinx who would kill anyone who answered her riddle wrong, and Scylla, the legendary monster who killed many of the Odysseus crew during his adventures in Homer's Odyssey, the good old days. Some sources say that Echidna still lives in the cave and will always be there, but there is also a story about how she died. The Greeks had 2 ways to keep track of time. There are 2 different words for time in ancient Greek, chronos and kairos. Chronos is the kind of time that we can measure with a clock. It's what we use to try to meet deadlines, get to appointments, and get to bed on time. We write the times down, 8:45 a.m., 4:15 p.m. On the other hand, kairos had a spiritual meaning and a sense of importance. It shows time in the moment, when you put everything you have into it and get everything it has to give. In Kairos time, you really live in the moment and don't hurry to get to the next thing. Chronos time is what most of us use, especially at work. We have meetings that start on time but may not end on time, reports that are due on a certain date, and a time on the clock when we can go home for the day. Kairos time makes us rethink how we think about efficiency and getting things done in the modern world. But if you care more about how well you do your work than how fast you do it, you'll see that Kairos time helps you reach your goals and keeps you from burning out and losing interest in your work. Handshakes started in ancient Greece. The handshake was the most common way for people to greet each other around the world. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the first nearly universal way to greet someone, which was first shown in the art of ancient Greece, has been stopped for good. The handshake was first shown in art in ancient Greece in the 5th century BC. An ancient Greek sculpture found on a Naiscos from the grave of Agathon and Sosicrates shows that the handshake has been used as a greeting for a long time. In ancient Greece, a handshake meant that both people were equal. Gods shook hands with other gods, warriors shook hands with each other, and athletes shook hands with their competitors to show respect for them. This became a standard way to act in the Western world, and it still holds true today. Today, most world leaders shake hands, athletes shake hands with their opponents before a game, and co-workers shake hands as a way to say hello, show respect, and show trust. Overall, a handshake shows that the 2 people are at ease with each other. About 1/3 of the ancient Greeks were slaves. Slavery was a common thing in ancient Greece, even though it might seem strange and awful to us now. Slaves were an important part of ancient Greek culture and economy. Most Greek families had at least 1 slave. Historians don't know for sure how many slaves the Greeks had, but they usually say that 30 to 40% of the population was made up of slaves. Slaves or unpaid workers have been used by societies for a long time to get things done. Even though slaves made up about 1/3 of the population in cities like Athens, they had no rights of their own and had to do what their masters said. Most Greek slaves did not start out as slaves when they were born. Instead, the Greeks took slaves by conquering other places and making the people there work for them. Pirates and other kidnappers also took slaves and sold them to the Greeks. Parents even sold their own kids into slavery sometimes. Even though this sounds terrible, the parents often did it to save their kids. So, if a child's parents couldn't afford to feed and clothe him or her, slavery would give the child food, clothes, and a place to live. Some slave owners even gave their slaves money to spend, but this wasn't always the case. If a slave was owned by the government instead of a private citizen, they might have a slightly better social standing, but they would still have to do slave work like building and fixing. On the other hand, some slaves had really bad luck. Some were put to work rowing on Greek ships, and the rest of their lives they spent inside, never seeing the sun or getting fresh air, eating only bread and drinking only water. In the same way, slaves were sent to the mines, where they might only live 2 to 3 years before the poisonous lead killed them. The idea of the red carpet came from ancient Greece. They were pioneers in many fields, including philosophy, architecture, mathematics, and literature. The ancient Greeks were always one step ahead of everyone else. Whatever they set their minds to, they accomplished brilliantly. Did you know that they were the first to roll out the red carpet, the crimson path, a symbol of status, style, and affluence, more than 2,500 years before the first celebrity Gucci-clad foot hit the famous red carpet at the Academy Awards, or the Oscars? The Crimson Path, also known as the Red Carpet, was first mentioned in the play Agamemnon, which was a tragedy written by Aeschylus, the father of tragedy, in the year 458 BC. Only the feet of gods were allowed to walk upon the red carpet. Today, 2,500 years after their first recorded use, red carpets are associated not with godliness but rather with celebrity and fame. But why was red chosen as the color? The Roman Catholic Church chose red as the color of majesty and power because it came to represent both the power of kings and the blood of Christ. So, you'll notice that Jesus and other saints wear red in a lot of medieval and Renaissance paintings, like Da Vinci's famous The Last Supper. How many of these facts about Greece did you know beforehand? Share your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to learn more about ancient Greece, then give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and ring the bell icon.